This is a tithe. You can give tithe by loving your neighbor. You can give a tithe by helping the person change their flat tire. You can give tithe by helping roofing the neighbor's house. You can give tithe by going down to the church that you figure is the church of the enemy and donating something to their needs. There are many ways to give tithes to the Lord. Now, once I get started on this tape package, I will tell you of 3 spirits that have been with me all my life. And I know there are people out there right now that immediately will think, well, another one of them that's deluded, another one of them schizos. Well, I ask you to take a look at your own self, and are you not a schizo? What exactly is a schizo? A schizo is someone who has 2 or more distinct personalities. And I ask you, when you're looking and loving your children, that is not a personality. When you're at work, you're not thinking about your children, you're not thinking about your mate, or you're not thinking about mom and dad at home, so that personally is another personality. We all have different personalities. And now I will tell you also about the greatest American that ever stepped on the soil in this country. You all know him. His name was Abraham Lincoln. He was a schizo. It's a known fact. You say, whoa, there's no way. If you read your history book, you will find that Abraham Lincoln was plagued with manic depression. Okay? Any psychologist or psychiatrist or anyone in the mind field will let you know that that is schizophrenia. That's when one part of your mind totally takes over and slowly starts shutting down everything until some go all the way down the tubes to commit suicide. But then the other side sometimes will pop back in and it'll be like a fight, and you will gravitate back up to, and as Abraham Lincoln, do what he did. Now, thank God that back in them days they never had Prozac, because if they did, there would probably be many people who would be still bona fide slaves. Not that most of us aren't now anyway. We just don't call it that. Now, there's one other thing I'd like to point out here about Abraham Lincoln, and about depression, and about happiness, and how they all tie together. Okay, let's take Abraham Lincoln himself, and then let's take the North and we'll take the South. Okay, we'll consider the South as the Depression, because obviously that's what they were doing. We'll take the North as saying, no, that's not right, things can't be like that. And then we'll take Abraham Lincoln personally as the focus point that is looking at the North and looking at the South. Okay, there was a time when the South almost came in and took over Pennsylvania. Even Washington itself was in an uproar. Okay, if you consider at that time, Abraham Lincoln was in a very deep state of depression in his mind. Okay, but he knew what to do. Slowly focus on the main features of the North, which was his great generals. Get out on the battlefield himself, which he did. Find out what exactly wanted and needed. Pump up the troops. Do whatever it took. He would walk around with the privates. He would take pictures with him. Whatever it would take to win that victory. Not blood and gut victory, but we're talking about the victory of the mind. Okay, we all know what happened at Gettysburg. It was probably one of the worst disasters that the United States has ever done, besides dropping atomic bombs on the Japs. Okay. Any person who knows the mind will tell you that there are different levels of depression, and there's different levels of happiness, as there's different levels of love. Love for your pet, love for your kids, love for your mom and dad, love for nature, love for your country, your flag, love for the world, love for the universe, and love for God, whoever you might think that it is, or could be, or she, he, whatever your definition of that is. Personally, I know who my God is. Okay, let's get back to the story of depression. As I said, through my own experiences I've done with myself, with the help of the Lord, that has totally saved my life, absolutely no doubt whatsoever about that. I see whatever you actually focus on, if you start focusing on something that your mind labels as negative, and the more that you look at it, the more that totally takes over. It's the same thing as if you look at TV and you only look at one station and you totally forget about all the other stations. Well, most people would come along when there's 150 stations and think, this person is really weird. But that's all depression is. That's all different types of schizophrenia is, at different levels. No one's saying any of them are good and bad. I personally believe that if Abraham Lincoln himself was not depressed, did not go down to New Orleans, did not see the slaves in chains, did not realize his own self, how he was bonded, how he was in chains, how he was drugged down to the earth, and felt the hate and the pain of it, friends, we would be in a totally different world. We were doing then absolutely no different than other people on up the timeline did. Now, I'm getting off the subject just a little bit. I'm just trying to let you understand, or hope that you understand, the differences of depression and happiness. But that goes with absolutely everything there is. Every word that is spoke has the exact same power. If you keep focusing on it, the word becomes stronger and stronger. Try it yourself. Take any word. Take a word that you don't like. Take a word that you despise. Take a word that really, if you hear it, it really gets you going, really gets your goat. And try it. You'll see exactly what I mean. Look in the mirror. Say the word 100 times. I mean, take the most awfulest, filthiest word in the world, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Just try it for yourself. Believe me, that little piece of information that the Lord whispered to me one day through one of His angels, again, as you will see, saved my life many times. Now, after you've said that word many times and you've built yourself up into a real frenzy, do just the opposite. Take that word and say it, but this time say it with some kind of feeling like you have for someone you really care about. Take a picture of the person that you really care about and put that picture right there so you can see that picture and you can see yourself in the mirror, and then try say that word. Try to bring in a picture of whoever you feel your Lord is, something that you truly love, and then take that word and try to say it. I guarantee you that the word will slowly lose its power till finally you'll realize one thing. It's only letters. Nothing more, just a bunch of letters put together in a certain area. Words only have power because we put the power into the words. That's all. That's the only reason words have power. Now, I'd like to go ahead and talk about the front and the back of the book tape package. How did I come up with the name Dancing with the Devil? Well, because as I said, I feel that there's been these three spirits around me all my life. I feel one of them is the devil, one of them is the good Lord, and one of them is me. And personally, I've danced with the devil quite a bit, as you will see in the tape package. Now, just for those who are curious about all the words on the back of the book or tape package, I myself physically have never murdered anyone. I myself physically have never molested anyone. I myself physically have never done hate crimes. But as many psychiatrists and psychologists and ministers, regardless of what organization they're with, will tell you that if you do it in your mind, if you do it in your heart, is there no difference? Is the judgment still not there? If you hate, you hate. I think you'll find that everything on the back of this particular book, tape package, is 100% accurate. Now, you're probably thinking, how in the world can anybody remember all this stuff? So what I've done is I will include the exact names of people that I only knew for, let's say, a month, a day, whatever, that for some reason I remembered their name and I remembered the incident. Okay? At this particular time, I would also like to put a warning on this particular tape and book package, because I will be quite clear about some of these things, and young kids should not listen to it, or they should not get their hands on the book. In the book there will be pictures of myself and some of these incidences, and I think you'll just see by the pictures that it's certainly been a very interesting life that I've led so far. Now, one would ask, why in the world would I want to do this in the first place if I'm not interested in money and I'm not interested in fame? Well, because all you have to do, friends, is go to the mall and take a look around. Try to forget your judgments. Try to forget everything. Just take a good look at what is in our malls right now. Go down to the neighborhood that there's no way in the world that you would ever go to that neighborhood. Drive around, not in judgment, but look and see, why do these people live like this? Go to other neighborhoods and say, why do these people live like this? Go out in the country to the great farms where they were once run by people who loved to be farmers, by people who loved to feed the world. Sure, there's a few of them left out there. You can find them if you search real hard. Talk to them, and you'll see someone who is so close to God that, I mean, it's quite simple. You wish you were them, most likely. I know I did. Just take a good look around. Forget about your surroundings. Forget about your degrees. Forget about your background. Forget about that, well, you're from this particular family and your family don't do this. Friends, if we don't take a look around, if we don't go out there in the garden and start doing some plowing, if we don't start pulling the weeds, I know exactly what the future could be. Either way, the future will be. Now, we can have heaven on earth, or we can have a total 100% hell on earth. Now, friends, it don't take a rocket scientist to look around and figure out who is actually running this planet. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like to me it's the good Lord. You say, well, Lon, come on. That's ridiculous. And I say, okay, it probably is, friends. But why don't you go down to these areas that you would never go to? Like particular, say some places over in India where like 90% of the people are, places in Africa, are places in America where every day more and more and more people become homeless. No, they're not derelicts. They're not winos. They're not people who were perverts. They're people who were working in factories. They're people who were working to support this country. They were people their grandfathers fought in the Civil War to free the slavery. They were people who fought in World War I. They were people whose families were here 300 years ago that helped take over this nation from the Indians that we stole. I mean, take a look at them. Now they're becoming more and more homeless. You say, well, that's because just the way the situation... Well, you can justify right, and you can justify wrong to be right. It's all in the mind. The bottom line is, if your neighbor's hungry, your neighbor's hungry. If your neighbor needs a house, your neighbor needs a house. If your brother needs shoes, he needs shoes. Who among you would deny that? Especially if you have so much. I mean, friends, go out into the streets. The poor people take care of themselves. You think that if a poor person had 2 loaves of bread and his next door neighbor needed a loaf of bread, knowing that he don't even know where the next loaf of bread comes from, that he would not take it over and give it to his neighbor? Obviously, you haven't been down in the real world. Friends, the world is crying out for change. The world is crying out. Please hear the cry. Look around. Get out of your judgments. Get out of your cars. Get out of your big houses. Get out of your little houses. Get out of your Volkswagens. Get out of your limousines. It's not going to last. I can clearly tell you that. There is no way that this planet will continue the way that it's continuing. The devil will not get 100% control. He may have 80% now, he may have 20% now, but I guarantee you there is one coming very, very shortly, if he's not already here, that's going to take 100% control. And you say, well, the Lord's going to come in and he's going to save the day. Well, I say that's exactly true. So why not become part of his army right now? Why not look around and say, my God, what are we really doing to this planet? We are ripping the trees down by the millions. We are chopping down the mountains. We are filling in where it should not be filled. Friends, we better take a look around, because as a fig tree is pulled out of the ground, you can't replant it. There's only one thing that you can do: start all over again. I'd like to start and talk about the fruit in the mansions, and then I will end off, and then the actual true life living story of Lonnie Darrell Harris will begin at the very beginning. And friends, the only thing I can say is, with your help and with the guiding hand of the light of the Lord Jesus Christ, we can take our planet back. We can actually make this a livable, a happy, an agreeable planet. I mean, I have a dream, folks, and my dream is that you would have to search for months to find out what the word bigotry means. I have a dream, folks. I have a dream that you would have to literally go to the ends of earth to find out what a little four-letter word called hate means, which, if you spelt that backward, means eat he. What does that really mean? It means it eats you and it eats he who gives you the hate. Friends, I have a dream. I have a dream that we all, totally, every nation under God, every principality, everything that is on this planet, from the maggots up to the stars, could all live together hand in hand, to where your brother, no matter what he is, no matter who he is, if he asks you for a loaf of bread, you would give him the store. I have a dream, folks, that the mansion that the Lord talked about that he went to will be here on earth. He also said, friends, there are many mansions. If it was not true, I would tell you so. Well, let me tell you about a couple of the mansions that we have built, friends. There's a mansion called the government of the United States and the fruit that they bear. Let's take a look at our fruit, folks, for a change. Let's take a look at what us high-class, know-it-all Americans... No, I'm not talking about the people down there that are the average, what they label as the everyday Joe. No, I'm talking about the people who are running and controlling the buttons. What exactly are their fruit, friends? Well, let me tell you of a small article that I read just the other day in the newspaper. I had no idea about this stuff. Right here in my own state, right in my own backyard. They're talking about they got to build this giant place to get rid of all these bombs that we've got, these bombs that have all this kind of toxic nerve gas. And I thought, my Lord, nerve gas? I mean, has people not ever seen what somebody who has leprosy looks like? How in the world could we build bombs that actually have gas that we could take and shoot over to who knows where, and that the people over there would get sores on them all over? Their little babies would swell up like balloons and pop in the air. I mean, what kind of people are these? Who in the world could have even imagined such chemicals? Who in the world could have imagined such weapons? You say, well, that was back in the early 1900s. Well, that's not true, folks. We still got them here today. Why do we even still have such things? I mean, imagine your little baby. Imagine your little sister. Imagine your mom and dad. Imagine your grandparent laying on the ground all sprayed with this gas, and they get all these big boils and bumps that pop up all over themselves, and their brain begins to start frying because the heat inside gets so hot and their whole head explodes. Friends, that's part of our fruit. That is our fruit that our government has gave to us. What's some of the other fruit that our governments gave to us? Well, hydrogen bombs, inflation, health insurance that the average everyday Joe cannot even afford. I mean, they have to wait until they're dead before they can afford to go to a hospital. They have to wait until they've got total lung cancer or anything else before they can actually go get help, because they don't have money to go to preventive medicine to find out way early like some of these other cultures have. That's our fruit, folks. That's our fruit. What is our fruit that we've got, folks? I'll tell you exactly. Take a look at our homeless. It's going more and more and more, as I said, every day. That's our fruit that our government has given us. If we do not take control, if we do not say, look, boys, something has got to change, and it's got to change today. I mean, this is our fruit, folks. This is what we're passing down to our kids. This is what our high school kids, this is what our grade school kids, by the time they get to be college grads, will have the benefit of paying 50% income tax. That's the fruit we're leaving our kids. That's nice. That's a really nice present that we're giving our kids. By the time their kids finish college, if the whole thing keeps going on, they'll be paying 75%. Well, who are they paying all this stuff to, and what's it all for? I mean, what is the 50% tax going to? I'll tell you what it's going to. It's going to keep all these bombs. It's going to keep all these weapons. It's going to keep all this medical insurance. It's going to keep all this stuff to keep higher and higher. And friends, it's not fair to the majority of the people. It's not fair to these kids. How dare we leave these kids in this kind of shape? How dare you say, well, we love you guys, but we don't love you enough that we're not going to go in and let these politicians constantly keep putting all this stuff out on our plate. Well, we love you. Oh, son, we love you so much. Oh, Santa Claus is coming, blah, blah, blah. Well, what other Santa Claus is there out there? Well, I can tell you, friends, if it keeps going the way it's going, there won't be nothing left. I mean, all of a sudden we'll get to a day where we'll be like the Soviet Union, where the whole machine has to stop. Well, what will happen when the whole machine stops? I can tell you, total anarchy. Total anarchy. Do you think that if you're in your big house and everything's going fine and all of a sudden things slowly slow to a stop, that the guy that lives next door ain't going to come over and try to get your loaf of bread? Why, anybody in their right mind would. If your kids were starving, would you not go next door and try to get some help from them? How, regardless of what way? I mean, the people from Mexico, why do you think they come up here to this country? They don't come up here because they want to get away from their family and they're up here on a holiday. No, it's because if you ever went down there, you would see what our country's going to be like if it keeps going the way it's going to be in another 25 years. That's why they come up here. They come up here to make $3 an hour, because down there they would be like if they made 25 cents an hour. I mean, why do you think they're sending all the factories and everything down there for? I mean, come on, folks. Wake up. It's time to wake up, people. It's time to say, what are we doing? What fruit are we leaving our children? What kind of mansion are they going to inherit? And friends, there are many kinds of mansions, as the good Lord told us. It's time to wake up, folks. It's time to say, enough is enough. It's time to say, boys, the ball's got to quit rolling. The ball's got to quit rolling in somebody else's direction and not in the people's direction. It's time to clearly wake up before it's way too late.